So I'm on my way to do some work, but I have to bring you my Monday dose of the downloads that are coming. There's something in the stolen book or in the Bible. I say that because the Bible has always been our book. It was about us, it was for us. The Bible was our father's codings, our father's writings, and it was for us. But we've lost it, and we've allowed some people to take it and rebrand it and bring it back to us. And this year, one of my jobs is to teach you to come into that understanding that the Bible has always been your book and has always been about you. And you are not to take the Bible literally. The Bible has a lot of hidden codes that it's necessary that we start looking into these hidden codes. And I'm going to do that with you. So it's very necessary that we take our time through this process. But I want to go to the book of Isaiah. And I want to let you check out something real significant. So the book of Isaiah talk about the route of the Lord towards the kingdom of Egypt, or the country Egypt, or the empire Egypt. And it's talking about how Egypt is going to be a desolate place and how it's going to turn the family against each other, and how they're going to turn a city against each other. But all the turning against each other is the Lord's way of saying that, listen, I'm going to destroy you. So Isaiah 19 starts with the verse says, the burden of Egypt, behold, the Lord rideth upon a swift cloud. The Lord rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt. And the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence. And the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. So basically the scriptures talk about the humiliation and the humbling of Egypt, and how the Lord has seen the indignation that is being put across by Egypt, and he's bringing judgment on Egypt, and a lot of things are going to happen in Egypt. So it goes on and on and on to say all of that. But the verse that I want to focus something on is the verse 19. It says that in that day shall there be an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt. In that day. Now, one thing we need to understand is that the conversation of Egypt, Canaan, and Israel is not a thing of history. The timelines of history does not permit the state of Israel to be in the same time frame of the kingdom of Egypt. It doesn't, because 3,000 years or 4,000 years or sometimes even 7,000 years prior to the writing of the scriptures, Egypt was already established. The Lord was already in Egypt, and an altar had already been built in Egypt. There was an altar already existed for the Lord in Egypt. What that means is that the Egyptians already had a relationship with the Lord. And Egypt has gone ups and downs of all the conflict and misleadings and politics and influences of other nations trying to take hold of it. Because don't forget, before the destruction of ancient Egypt, everybody came there to study, everybody came there to learn. So none of the pharaohs knew anybody called Joseph. These are historic facts. They don't go you see, don't go to the Bible and then use the biblical text to justify historic accounts. When you do that, you would always be embarrassed, because they are documenting records that indicates that Egypt has always been. So the time that they are saying, in that day shall there be an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt, and a pillar at the border thereof to the Lord, it means that the Lord was going to have his mark on Egypt. Egypt had already built the altar for the Lord. Egypt already had a relationship with the Lord. 3,000, 4,000 prior to the time the scriptures was written. So there is no way, and you see, I want to say this. Don't anybody read this and say that, oh, this is a prophecy. This is something yet to come. This is not something yet to come. Egypt, as we know it, is in ruins. Has gone through its fair share of war and destruction. The Egypt that we know, I'm not talking about modern day, no, the Egypt that we know has already been destroyed. So that Egypt that we know, it is not the Egypt today. The glory days of Egypt are not coming back. The energies, the Lord, the gods of Egypt have moved away from Egypt, and they are building another place. You know about this. Now, when we say Egypt, it's not talking about all the things that the energies or the gods are going to do in Egypt. It's yet to come, because it's talking about the people. It's referring to the people, right? So even if we pretend that the Lord is saying in that day he was with Egypt, Egypt fell off. This is why the Lord came to destroy Egypt. There was a relationship already with the Lord in Egypt. God had a relationship with the Egyptians. The Egyptians were his children. God had already been in a relationship with Egypt, established Egypt, built Egypt with all the glory and wisdom and power and technology. This is why they felt that, okay, the only how to fully assume the identity of this people is to ensure that the Bible has a relationship with Egypt. This is why Hosea 1:1 said, because these people needed to have a relationship with Egypt and needed to have a continuity from Egypt, because God had always been, or has always been, with the Egyptians. The Egyptians are the ones that taught the world who God is. The Egyptians are the ones that taught the world how to have a relationship with the Son of God. The Egyptians are the ones that understood the worship of the Son of God and had a relationship with the Creator God, right? So and this is a pure case of identity theft, in the sense that for a people to have a relationship with this creator God, sorry about the shaking, I'm driving. For the people to have a relationship with this creator God, the people needed, the people needed to associate themselves with the people that taught the world who God is, who the Son of God is, and who the Creator God is. Sorry about the shaking. Don't worry about it. Because it would have been far-fetched if from nowhere a people show themselves up and say that we are the ones that know the creation story, and we are the ones that God has called, and we are the ones that God is going to use to save the world. It would have been insane that from nowhere a people will come and say we are the chosen children of God, because these people never met the Son of God, or either did any of them met the Creator God. They never knew the Creator God. It was a group of people that always had a relationship with the Creator God. So there was no way they could have come out to say that, well, the Creator God has chosen us. No, how did the Creator God choose? How did the Creator God choose you? Where did the Creator God know you from? The Creator God only knew a people, and the people he knew were in Egypt. And the people he established were the Egyptians. And the Egyptians were black people. And these black people were you and I. Our fathers. Our fathers were the first people to ever understand any concept of any God doing anything anywhere. You understand what I'm saying? So now, the only way a God is going to be introduced to the whole world is that this God has a relationship with the first people that he ever met. So, these people that took the identity of these other people had to ensure that some way, somehow, they established a relationship. When they were writing the stories, they needed to some way, somehow establish a relationship with the children of God, which were no other people than the Egyptians. That is the only how they could tell the story that, oh, they have also met God, and God is saying this and God is saying that. Without those stories of them meeting God, there was no possible way that they could have told anybody God has spoken to us and anybody would have believed. There was no possible way. So the only how they knew the world was going to believe the message that they had to tell was to ensure that they tell the world that, you know what, and our people were in slavery with these people. Is somebody getting what I'm saying? I get what I'm saying. There was no way these people were going to tell anybody God has told us this and anybody was going to believe. Because they never met God. Their ancestors never knew God. Their fathers never had any high priest. The only high priest that ever existed were the high priests in the temples of Egypt. So now when they were rewriting or repackaging what we have as the Bible today, they had to insert themselves in the historic fact. How did they insert themselves? Some way, somehow, their descendant finds him or himself. We know the story. Their descendant finds himself in the house of Potiphar. And all of a sudden becomes the prince of Egypt. And all of a sudden becomes the ruler in Egypt next to the Pharaoh. And now the story is believable because now they have put themselves in the story of our ancestors, our people. So they've become like adopted sons. They become like the adopted sons in the house. It's like your father having 5 children and sees an orphan and brings the orphan in and gives the orphan his name, and now all of a sudden the orphan is being called your brother. But you and I know the orphan is not your biological brother though. So these people that inserted themselves in our history are not biological. They were never priests to our temples. They never had any relationship with our gods. And God the creator, or the creator and the son of God, or the child of God, never knew these people. So therefore, there was never a promise for these people. But some way, somehow, they adapted themselves into our stories. They put themselves into our stories, and all of a sudden, they made themselves as us. They stole our identity and started telling the world that God has chosen them to be his chosen people. God never knew them. God never had a relationship with them. God had a relationship with you and I. We've always been the ones teaching everybody in the world what spirituality is. It is in our DNA. It is the fabric of our being. That is why every African descent constantly wants to have a relationship with a higher power, because we are spiritual people. So there's no African descent that wants to just be there. They want to have a relationship. They know there's a higher power. They want to connect to their original source. They want to connect to who they are. They want to connect to where they are coming from. You understand what I'm saying? This is why we are naturally spiritual people. We naturally yearn for spiritual things, because it is the fabric of our DNA. That's who we are as a people. These people do not have any relationship with any God. This is why they can go and kill everybody. This is why they can go and destroy everybody. This is why they can go and cut down all the trees. This is why they have no value for animals. This is why they have no value for the earth. This is why they have no value for the resources. This is why they come to your country and they rip your country apart. They don't care. Destroy your waters. They don't have relationship with the spirit. They are not a spiritual people. So it says, in that day, I'll build an altar. The altar was already, Isaiah 19:19, go and read it. The altar was already built 3,000 years ago by our fathers. The establishment of this altar was already in the system. Then verse 20 says what? And it shall be for a sign and for a witness unto the Lord of hosts in the land of Egypt, for they shall cry unto the Lord because of the oppressors. Now, all of a sudden, Egypt is the one crying unto the Lord because of the oppressors. So, question, who are the oppressors now? And he shall send them a savior, a great one. He shall deliver them. He shall send Egypt a savior, a great one, the Son of God. God, the Creator, will send Egypt his son, so that his son would bring deliverance to the people of Egypt. Salvation was meant for the people of Egypt. It's our DNA. In our DNA. That is why we've always been a people that are constantly looking for something higher than ourselves. We've constantly want to associate ourselves with a power, a force, a being higher than ourselves. Are you understand what I'm saying? These things, it's historic fact. Go to the records. You will see these things. I am not making these things up. The original people of the Spirit, the original sons of God, are the house of Egypt. The house of Egypt are the same house of ancient Mesopotamia, ancient Samaria, ancient lost continent of Amu, or what you call Atlantis. They are the same people. And the same people still exist on the face of the earth, and you and I are the same people. They don't need you to know that. Because the minute you come into that awareness, you come to understand that you are the original people. You are the original sons and daughters. So you will now come for your inheritance. And they can't allow you come for your inheritance. So the adopted son who was an orphan or who is an orphan, all of a sudden has hidden all the documents so that the real children don't find the document to claim their inheritance. This is why they've covered everything up. And this is why you're so confused, right? You're following all their religions. You're running after all their religions, claiming it to be yours and ignoring your very religion, your very spirituality. And guess what they've done? They have now adapted your spirituality because they are orphans. They've adapted your lifestyle. They've adopted your names. They've adopted your spirituality. They've adopted everything about you, and they are living it as themselves. And you are rather chasing after their packages, their rebranded stuff. Listen, this year I've been saying I'm going to teach you guys insane things. Not to convince you. I don't need convincing. Not to cause you to come and follow me. I don't need that. But to cause you to wake up. Do your own research. Do your own research. Dig these things up yourself. Don't trust me. Google right now. Google has made everything easy, right? Google. So they've stolen our identity. They've stolen our lives. They're living our lives. You are so confused. You are so confused. You don't know what you're doing with your life. This is why you demonize your own history. This is why you demonize your own truth. This is why you demonize your own facts. You know why? Because the adopted children are pretending to be the biological children. The adopted children are pretending to be the biological children. So long as the adopted children have the document, the biological children will be lost. It's time you go for your own inheritance. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next video.